Hi, and welcome to Cover Brand, where we cover all things branding, marketing, and advertising to help you understand what the hell branding is and how it works to grow your business. Welcome and welcome back to Cover Brand. I'm Ethan Decker. I am really excited to have my old friend and college, not quite classmate. What do we call ourselves? Alumni? Anyway. Carol Kauder on the show. Hi, Carol.
Hi, Ethan. It's a pleasure to be here.
I'm so excited about this. I met you because you hired me at Radar Communications to do market research. And then we all left and disbanded and did other things, but then you continued with market research and I hired you to do market research. So the shoe has been on both feet and it's really stinky at this point.
It's always nice when it works like that.
So I know you prepared because you are a very well-prepared person to talk about cover songs, first of all, and then about the business of branding and marketing and advertising. So let's start with cover songs. What is one of your favorite cover songs?
One of my favorite cover songs is from the show Glee. Full disclosure, I'm a big Glee fan and I'm a big Madonna fan. And if that's going to make people start watching right here, right now, I'm here for it. But in one episode of Glee, they had the cast switch. So the girls all sang songs from the boys' perspective and the boys all sang songs from the girls' perspectives. And the boys, as a group, covered Madonna's What It Feels Like for a Girl, which was just a really beautiful, sensitive rendition, a super interesting interpretation of that song. And I love that song by Madonna, and I really loved their take on it, hearing these young male voices sort of put themselves in the shoes of from a woman's perspective.
Speaking of putting the shoe on the other foot, right? And in this case, heels and backwards, Ginger Rogers, right?
Yes.
But that's great. I also loved Glee. Of course, I was a musical theater dork growing up. So how can you not love Glee? I guess you can, but I loved Glee. And that's such a neat interpretation to take something that is so poignant for one audience or for one singer, and then give it to someone else who really changes the meaning or gives it a deeper meaning, would you say?
For sure. Yeah, it's beautiful. It adds another dimension to it. And they do it really nicely.
I hope it's available to be heard in the places you normally hear music.
I'm sure it's on iTunes. And since we're on the topic of Glee, their version of Poker Face also with Leah Michele, and now I'm going to say the John Travolta version of her name. Not Menzel. Is that how you say your name?
Dina Menzel.
Have a fabulous version of Poker Face while you go by Lady Gaga. When you go into the Glee archives, you can just keep digging, and there's tons of great stuff.
Well, yeah, we could spend episodes, not just an episode, but episodes of Cover Brand talking about Glee covers because it's a cover show. I mean, I guess you could say the Glee cast is a cover band.
They never did anything original.
Yeah. But What It Feels Like for a Girl by the Guys, that's a good one.
Yeah.
That's a good one. So I've mentioned a little bit about your business. I know you're a market researcher. Why don't you tell folks more about your business and then we can get into your question.
Well, sure. I have a master's degree in journalism. That's part of my backstory. And I worked for the Boulder newspaper for 4 years before I got into market research. And I worked for Radar, where we had the wonderful experience of getting to work together initially. And I worked for Strategy. And then I went out on my own in 2007. And I've been an independent market research consultant, moderator, you name it, everything market research. And my business is CLK Consulting.
So I love CLK Consulting, by the way. I'm glad we can still get to work together. It's nice to not just work with people who are really great at their craft, but who are also really just nice to work with. So that's always fun.
Well, it's wonderful when I get the opportunity to work with you, Ethan.
Oh, so you have a question or a thing that you hear a lot about in your business.
I do. I should say also that I focus on qualitative research. And when I have clients ask me, they want to understand how can we get someone to be our customer more often. So if it's a restaurant, these people that are coming in once a week, how do we get them to come in twice a week? And people who shop at our discount dollar store, they're coming in a couple times a year. How do we get them to come in once a quarter? How do we notch up the customers that we already have so that we can make more money off of them? We've already got them as customers. And it feels like it's always very challenging as a researcher to get insights and how that happens.
Right.
So my question for you as the marketing advertising guru, I'd love to hear your perspective on, can advertising communications be used to drive shopper behavior or customer behavior in this way when the models that you share, are these predictable models of behavior?
Right.
Is it possible to use communications to motivate people to move from one kind of behavior, one frequency to another frequency?
Yeah, yeah. I remember being at a meeting at TGI Fridays back when I was at Crispin Porter Bogusky, and one of the staff there, very senior, like a VP or an EVP, said, "Look, we already have 2 million customers a year, and they come in on average 1.3 times a year. If we can get them all to just come in one more time a year, we double our revenue," or whatever it was. And even back then, I had done enough brand science to internally roll my eyes. I bit my lip pretty hard because it was not the right moment to shoot that prospect down. But you're right. I do hear that a lot. I know you hear that a lot because I know exactly how that refrain.
So wait, I'm on the hook to answer that question. Which
Great.
is what I'm asking you. Is that a possible question to answer? Is there an answer to that question?
So in a way there is, but it's going to be a little less satisfying to those kinds of clients. And it's this. It's first of all, it is pretty damn hard to change consumers' behavior as a brand. Usually people change their behavior for a variety of reasons. You realize you have acid reflux, so you have to change up how much hot sauce you use. You realize you're celiac, so boom, suddenly you're gluten-free. You start to live with or marry someone who's got different preferences in toothpaste, so suddenly you've gone from Crest to Colgate. And brands have nothing to do with any of those changes. And even the more subtle ones, like you used a lot of mayonnaise last year, like 4 jars. That's kind of a lot of mayonnaise for some people. And then this year, for some reason, you're cooking just a little bit less chicken salad. I don't know. And so you're down to 3 jars or even 2 jars of mayonnaise. And those ebbs and flows of usage are so normal and mostly completely out of control of the brand. So there's that first thing to realize. The second question then is, can you do anything about it to get people to come back to TGI Fridays one more time? And there is, but it's going to be a lot less potent than you want because it is so hard to get people to come back to the restaurant again. They get to pick where they want to go for dinner. You don't get to pick where they go for dinner. They get to decide how much mayonnaise to use. You don't. Amy Schumer, I think, did a campaign with Hellman's recently, or best. What is it?
Aren't they the same?
Yeah, but they have different east and west of the Mississippi. They're Best Foods and Hellman's. But Amy Schumer isn't really going to get you or me or anyone listening to directly buy another jar of mayonnaise. So overall, there's a phrase, advertising is a weak force, but it's generally used even more weakly than it could. So step one, your first answer to these clients who say, can we get people to come in just one more time? Should be no, absolutely not. And then impress upon them that there's nothing Hellman's can do to make them buy another jar of mayonnaise. And they go, oh, I guess that's true. Like marketers get amnesia when they think about their own brand. We all do, because everyone thinks about it as much as we do. But they'll remember very quickly that there's nothing Hellman's or Amy Schumer can say or do to get them to buy more mayonnaise. It's up to them mostly. So advertising is a weak force, but it is mostly used much more weakly, more poorly than it could because I don't know, 90% of advertising is below average. 90% of advertising is crap. It is, it's stuff that barely gets people to notice. It usually doesn't link to the brand, and it's pretty instantly forgettable. I mean, you and I are in the business, and even we are hard pressed to remember even the greatest of ads, you know? Like, can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? And that ran for a decade. So what you can do as a marketer is gently remind people you exist and gently build positive associations or good juju or good vibes with them over and over and over. There's this old thing like it's cheaper to retain a customer than it is
Mhm.
to acquire one. And I kind of hate that, A, because it was made up, but it was published in Harvard Business Review, so everyone thinks it's real. True story. And then B, you need to constantly reacquire your old buyers. You know, just because they bought your mayonnaise once, there's no reason they're currently your buyer. They're not yours. So you got to reacquire them, which is why even the biggest brand in the world, well, one of them, Coca-Cola, advertises on napkins anywhere they sell Coke. It's why Coca-Cola has trucks that are completely red with that white stripe on them. It's why when you go to the movie theater, I hope you still go to the movie theater.
We saw Top Gun.
Okay, yeah.
You had to see that in the theater.
Yeah, and all the cups are Coke branded. And when you go on an airplane, and I know you go on an airplane, when they offer you a beverage, what do they hand you?
A little napkin that says United.
And on the flip side, half the time, it's got a Coke ad. And there's the red, and it's on a white napkin. So there are brand colors, and it says something corny about flying and having a refreshing seat in the sky. I don't know.
I can't say I ever flip it over.
That's okay. I blow my nose a lot, so I am constantly looking at both sides of the napkin and the inside. TMI. So, yes, even Coca-Cola is reacquiring customers who people would say are their customers. They're not their customers. They're just people who sometimes buy Coke. So, what you can do is gently remind people that you exist at all. So, if you're a restaurant or if you're a discount clothier, remind people that you exist and that you're a good place to go for back to school shopping, or remind people that you exist and that your burgers are really tasty. A good example of this was a few years ago, IHOP. You know what IHOP stands for, right?
International House of Pancakes.
The most ironic name of all. There's nothing international about them. Neither their food is international nor their locations. I think they have 3 non-US restaurants. But they were in a slight decline back in the time when people thought millennials were killing everything. You know, millennials are killing Red Robin. Millennials are killing, I don't know, Discount Tire. And so they had to remind people they exist at all. And they did it by saying, hey, it's our 60th anniversary. We're changing our name. And it was a little bit of a Twitter announcement, but it got everyone a Twitter about IHOP. And it got people talking for the first time in years about IHOP, and probably even trying to remember what the hell it stands for. But they're changing their name to IHOb. And it got people guessing for a week because they announced they were going to reveal it in 1 week. And then they revealed what the name change was. Do you remember this at all?
I've heard you speak about it, so I know the punchline.
And the punchline is, what is it?
International House of Burgers.
Right. Not what you'd expect. You'd think it was bacon or biscuits or breakfast. You know, pancakes is too narrow. We offer more than pancakes. That's why we're changing our name to House of Breakfast. But no, they said House of Burgers, and then the internet lost its shit even more. They're like, well, that's absurd. That's stupid. What are they thinking? What? Burgers? But again, it got people talking about IHOP for the first time in years. And all that great effort, and it got billions of impressions. It got, $100 million worth of earned media, free exposure. It was a viral sensation. It probably boosted their sales 5 or 10%. It boosted their burger sales 400%. And most of those people didn't come back for a second burger, which is the normal, way things go. But it got them thinking at all. So it was a really powerful use of advertising as opposed to a really weak one. And even then it didn't make a permanent change in people's behavior.
I'm imagining myself trying to explain that to my clients, and they'll say, but that's too vague. Like, we have this objective and we're trying to change this behavior. And as a researcher, I'm supposed to ask people point blank, what would it take to get you to come here? And that they're going to answer, oh, if only you had more salads, if you offered 3 different kinds of salad instead of 2, I would definitely come here twice a week. Or it feels like they're looking for some very rational and sort of logistical solution to this question. And to your point about that answer being unsatisfying, that does, because that goes to one of my favorite sayings, which is, half of my advertising dollars are wasted. I just don't know what half.
Yeah.
Like, it feels like this leap of faith to just put something out there. And that, I think, more and more clients feel like there just has to be so many dotted lines from what their objectives are to what their advertising is and how it's going to accomplish this goal, that leads us to coupons for mayonnaise, sell more if we have a coupon. And then we get sort of locked into this, trained behavior of people only buy your thing when there is a coupon. And then that has a whole nother set of issues.
It's not even a dotted line, Carol. It is like a railroad. It is laid down in iron on the ground, forged steel. They want to know the exact path that's going to drive people right in. And it's all logic, just like you said. It's all got to be logical. It's got to be relevant. And that is because there is this belief that we need to persuade with logical, relevant things. When the principle of how advertising tends to work is these gentle nudges and reminders. And so you need to remind people you exist. If it's relevant, absolutely, that's kind of good. If you make a soft drink like Coca-Cola, it should be refreshing. You should remind people that they will feel refreshed. If you have a restaurant, you should remind people that you have a great burger. But the key really of good advertising is it sticky? Does it grab some attention? Does it stick in your brain for longer than 12 seconds? And what I try and do, what I would encourage you to do, is turn the tables on those people and say, what's going to make you buy more mayonnaise or motor oil? What's going to make you to buy Pennzoil every time instead of Mobil 1? I think those are brands. Quaker State. So turn the table on them to remind them of how they behave as a buyer, as a shopper, as a consumer. And then steer them, hopefully with some principles. And if you need some sciencey stuff, you can always refer to me or hold up one of my charts or whatever, or call me and say, look, advertising can't make people come back 3 times more, but advertising can do this if it's effective. Now, how do you make effective advertising? You got to make it sticky. You got to make it interesting. And then you throw in the relevant stuff. But it really does change their objective in terms of what the advertising will do. And then it changes their objective in terms of how they use you to uncover insights that will be useful in advertising. Yeah. Does that make sense?
It does. I have a sort of same but different twist on this question.
Yeah.
Which is a client that I worked with that was a dollar store. I mean, the dollar store model is broken, so it's not really that anymore, but they sold produce and they sold organic produce.
Okay.
So there were people that bought everything, shopped at this store regularly, bought anything in the store. And there were definitely tiers of people who only went for holiday supplies. They only went in wedding time. Then there were people that would buy the packet, they buy the candy because it's brand name candy. And then there were people who just bought everything in the store, including the produce.
Right.
So their question was, how do we get all of these people coming into our store who don't feel comfortable buying produce at the dollar store? Like,
Mhm.
how do we ease that? I mean, the truth is we never cracked the code and they've gone out of business. So, but I'm wondering, what is your take on, is there, is that something that's possible? Can you break down people's biases or prejudices about
Right.
fresh produce at the dollar store? Or again, is that a consumer behavior that the brand has no control over?
It is mostly out of the brand's control because it is really how the person is wired. Like you said, you've got already 6 subgroups or segments, whatever you want to call them. There's the group that only buys candy there, only during the Halloween and Easter season because it's cheap. You got the group that only buys their staples there, and you got the group that buys everything. And it's rare to be able to get someone to change their stripes. I worked with Domino's for a while, and Domino's found out that people who like carryout pizza, pretty different than people who like delivery. And it's really hard to get someone who loves delivery to get off their ass and go do carryout, or to remember to do carryout on their drive home. So it is very, very difficult to get people to change their stripes.
Is it so difficult that you shouldn't try? Or
Well, again, let's go back to this nudging and reminding. If you think about your advertising as a nudge or a reminder, then you're never gonna fully change someone's behavior. You know that just because that's all the tool can do. That's all you would expect the tool can do. Now, you can nudge and remind a fair bit. And if the work is good, if the advertising is good, then it is more effective at that. But it's more likely that you'll bring in more candy shoppers instead of get candy shoppers to buy produce. And it's more likely you'll bring in a few more people that are like, oh, I can buy everything here, than it is to get those candy shoppers to buy produce. One last thing about that change of perception, like, oh, people don't think you can get good organic food at a dollar store. That's supremely hard to change that perception. And I've seen lots of advertising and lots of stunts try to do that. Payless Shoe Store did a little stunt. Maybe you're actually behind this. I don't know.
no,
They
just remember when it happens for sure.
they created a cool pop-up boutique called Palessi because it's a riff on Payless. And they sold all their same shoes, but they marked them up tenfold or something like that. Or took out the prices at all and got all these Instagram influencers to show up. And then at the end, they revealed, by the way, did you know these are from Payless? And they were shocked. Oh my gosh, I liked it, but now I think it's crap. Because you know what? They still think it's Payless crap. So it's not really going to change their perceptions. I think that the lovely way to do it, the suggestion I would have would be to firmly tell these clients, kind of like Edna Mode from The Incredibles, no, darling, that's not what you do. You don't use advertising. She doesn't have a German accent, does she?
I don't know. If you say something like that to a client, you must say it with an accent. Otherwise, it just won't fly.
That's true. That's true. No, darling, what are you thinking? No capes. You do not use advertising to get people to buy more mayonnaise. When was the last time you bought more mayonnaise because Benny Schumer tried to sell it to you? And you give that forceful, confident approach, and then you steer them to what advertising can do, like Puppy Monkey Baby, which was a Mountain Dew ad for the Super Bowl. They took the 3 cutest things on the internet and mashed them up into one disgusting creature, a puppy monkey baby creature. And it was gross. And then it licked the guy on the face, like right on the lips. And you're like, ugh. But it was sticky, noticeable, memorable advertising that gently nudged people to go out and try this new triple Mountain Dew threat thing. It was like 3 ingredients in one. But it got people going, puppy monkey baby, puppy monkey baby, puppy monkey baby. And that's what you wanted the advertising to do. So yeah, bring your strongest Edna Mode and yell at them and berate them and smack them with newspapers for having the wrong idea of what advertising can do. And then, so look, darling, this is what I'm going to do. Breathe like Egyptian cotton, except it's fireproof. And then you show them really what great ads can do. And then you steer them to doing research to uncover that shit.
All right. Easy peasy.
Easy. Yeah. Super easy. Well, as I like to say, and you know this as well as any of us, the people work is the work and it's the hard work. Yeah.
Indeed.
Good to see you. Good talking to you.
Thank you so much, Ethan. It's always so helpful. I love getting your perspective on things.
I'm sure we'll be talking more about this, and I hope we'll be working more together soon.
Me too, because I'm going to yell at you in an accent.
I am so here for that. And then we'll play Glee. Bye. Do you want to improve the performance of your brand without breaking the bank? Bring it into the shop, and we'll do a reasonably priced and very quick brand tune-up. We'll run some diagnostics, make some quick fixes, and then give you some recommendations for bigger improvements you can make down the road. Also, if you got something out of this episode, think of one person who might also get something out of it and send it to them as a way of saying, hey, thinking of you.